Hello and welcome to Animation One-to-Ones from Squiggly.com. I'm Steve Henderson, bringing you an interview I've looked forward to sharing for a long, long time as I speak with Adam Elliot, director of Memoir of a Snail, which hits UK cinemas on the 14th of February. Anyone familiar with the work of Adam Elliot from his Oscar-winning film Harvey Krumpet or his first feature film Mary and Max will know that their director has an innate ability to make the unloved subjects of his worlds very much adored by audiences, and Memoir of a Snail is no stranger to that formula. Built on a budget that most features wouldn't even consider beginning pre-production with, the film is not only a work of art, but it's also a labour of love, evident through the writing, construction, and all-round execution of this sincere work. You can read our full review of the film from Annecy 2024 on Squiggly. And yes, this interview was recorded the day after its world premiere at the Annecy Festival, where it got a well-earned standing ovation, and the Squiggly team were there stood up clapping as well. But we squirreled away our chat until now with the hope that after listening to this, you'll all go out and support this film in UK cinemas. So here's our interview with Memoir of a Snail director, Adam Elliot. Congratulations on the premiere of Memoir of a Snail here at Annecy Festival. How are you feeling?
I'm so glad I'm talking to you because, I'm a bit rusty when it comes to interviews, and today's, the day after the film had its world premiere, and this morning, I was getting asked some very philosophical questions, and it takes a while for you to really work out why you just did what you did, because while you're making it, you don't really have that time to really reflect and look inwards, and it will take months for me to sort of absorb what happened, and I think at the moment I think I said earlier, I'm relieved. I'm glad it's over. I know it's not a very good analogy, but I feel like I've been constipated and I've just had a big release and I can now breathe. So, I was very nervous. You're always nervous, but yesterday, because I haven't been to Annecy for such a long time, and I haven't made a feature for 15 years, I'd sort of, things have changed a lot. And when I looked out at the audience last night, when I went on stage with Marcel, I thought, oh God, they're all young. They probably were only 3 years old when Mary and Max came out. And so I was very, I stood on stage with a lot of trepidation. And but then I suddenly could hear, I almost felt this warmth in the room. And I thought, I think I'll be okay. And then when the film started to play and they laughed at Pinky screaming out, "The potatoes!" I said, that's when I thought, okay. Well, that wasn't even meant to be a funny bit, but they laughed anyway. I think I'm going to be okay. But then I still didn't relax because I was constantly listening, because I hadn't seen the film with an audience and with a proper, the surround sound and everything. So I was listening to certain sound effects and I thought, oh no, that one's too low, that one's too low. And I just was looking at all the mistakes. So, you just think, I thought it would be closure, but it wasn't.
Oh, I feel it's an awful job being an animation journalist, because people spend their lives, in your case, 8 years, huddled away, questioning every single day, why? We watch the film and then the first thing I go, why? It's like you've not even had a chance to. But it's clear to see why. It's amazing. It's a fantastic film. Congratulations.
That's the other thing I always said with making feature films is, an hour and a half of somebody's life, you don't want to waste their time, and you don't want them to feel indifferent. If they hate the film, at least that's something, that's a reaction. But you're not going to please everybody, and that there's certain gags that will never work as well as you wanted them. And but I think overall, when the audience, I could tell them when they started clapping through the credits. There's one crazy person up the back who didn't stop. I thought, I think we're okay. I think, and because I had a lot of my crew there too, so much is riding on this film, not just my career, but their careers as well. So, there's a lot of pressure and expectation, and so I think we're off to a good start. And I know here in Annecy it's not a real audience, because, these are such devotees and film buffs. So when we have our first screening in Australia, I think that will really be true test of the film. And Australians can be horrible. Getting an Australian to clap is really hard.
Films at Annecy have been booed this year, and they're not they're an honest audience here at Annecy,
Yeah.
and the applause lasted for the entirety of the credits,
Yeah.
and then picked up again at the end.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just one. You've been very modest. It wasn't just some nutcase
was
in the
it? Oh,
background.
from
It was
where I was
a fair few. It was a fair few of us all keeping it going. It was,
Good,
it was
thank
amazing.
you.
Yeah.
No, well, I've never had a standing ovation, so that was... And I'd actually been to the previous night. I went to the opening night film, A Very Precious Cargo. Did you see that?
Beautiful.
And at the end, and rightly so, I stood up immediately. I just thought, yeah, wow, what a... And then I thought afterwards, oh God, we're not going to get one of those, And then when we did, it was like, oh wow, it was a lovely surprise. So no, big relief.
Amazing. I mean, this film seems to be. It's obviously Mary and Max was based somewhat in reality. You did have a pen pal. Your films are sort of autobiographical. There's always biographical elements to them. Can you tell us a little bit about those? The input for the story of Grace and Gilbert.
Sure. Well, look, it's more of the same. I mean, I feel like with every film, I'm trying to push the boundaries. I'm trying to, test myself and take risks. And so for this film, I did the usual. I looked around my family and friends, and I thought, who's next? Who can I? Whose biography can I exploit for my own sick reasons? And I thought, well, my mother. I haven't done a film about my mother yet. And it was quite timely because my father, he passed away about 8 years ago, and he was a hoarder of sorts, and Mum was a hoarder of sorts as well, and so we had to downsize his hoard, and then we had to move my mum to the city and downsize her hoard. And when I say hoard, I feel guilty even saying hoard because you've seen all those exploitative TV shows about hoarders, and they usually focus on hoarders who are unhygienic or collect dead cats, or but a lot of hoarders, the majority of hoarders are very hygienic, and they just have an issue with getting rid of things, So my mum was one of those hoarders, and I was starting to become fascinated about the psychology and why do we have emotional attachments to all these things? And we all collect ourselves. And when does a collection become a hoard? And when does it become a problem? When does it interfere with your everyday life? And so I started reading a lot of books on the psychology of hoarding. And the more I read and the more research I did, I found that in a lot of cases, extreme hoarders have had a very traumatic experience in their life, and more often than not, it's the loss of a child at an early age or a sibling, So the collecting is that it's a safeguard, it's a form of protection, and by surrounding themselves with these sentimental objects, they feel safer. So that's where it all kick-started, and at the same time, a very close friend who was born with a cleft palate, and I was always going to make a film, just a short film about her life, because as a child she had 11 operations on her lip, and she got bullied at school and teased, and yet grew up to be this very extroverted, flamboyant person. So I thought, I want to tell a story about her life, but also want to have this hoarding thing, and how can I get those two together? So, I did a lot of drafts, and it slowly started to find its own form. I mean, I write in a very unconventional way in that I start with the detail and throw in as much, quirks and idiosyncrasies and detail as I can, and then draft by draft, slowly a 3-act structure magically appears, So I just did, look, I think my films are becoming formulaic. I shouldn't say that, but I feel that I've now got a methodology and a system, and I mean, I'm always paranoid and worried that I am, just telling the same sorts of jokes, and but I really did try on this film to, I pushed the darkness, I pushed the, I really wanted to drag Grace through the mud, but at the same time I thought it's about time I had a really happy ending without giving away the ending. I thought, yes, this time I want to surprise the audience, and yeah.
Without giving too much away, obviously the ending of Mary and Max is a beautiful ending. And as with Memoir of a Snail, it is a beautiful ending, as in both films come together in the end. And that is probably as much as I can say without spoiling it for anyone. There's a satisfaction at the end, and an emotional satisfaction for the audience, which is incredibly well delivered. And there must be so much, you must feel a certain amount of pressure with the critical success of Mary and Max, and and people asking you, when are you going to do another one, when are you going to do another one, and now it's here. Are you feeling that kind of, are you feeling nerves, or has Annecy put you to rest?
I think it's, with every film, or even every drawing I do, as you grow older, you're almost thinking too much. I look back at my first film, Uncle, and I had no idea what I was doing. It was very intuitive and chaotic, and it worked out. It was okay, so I wish I could get back to that mental state where I don't psychoanalyze everything. But I find that, Memoir is probably the most challenging film I've made, and you hear a lot of directors say that each film gets harder, and I think that's true. This one took forever to finance, and we had less money than we had Mary Max, and so, follow-ups, even after Harvey Krumpet, I had that same sort of pressure and expectation. He won't be able to make a feature. There was a lot of negativity, and but yeah, I think it's all the story and the script, and you just got to trust your instincts and just fingers crossed that this story's going to resonate, and and I think so far it has. I'm more interested to see how it's going to go in America.
Really?
Yeah, because I burned down a church. And I'll see. It's interesting. We showed the film to some French students here this morning at Annecy, and they're 15 and up. And I was very curious as to what they thought about the film. And I said, I happen to know, and how did you feel about the burning church? We love the burning church. We love it. I said, I'm sure if I asked that same question in America, it might be different. So.
It's soon to find out. I'm
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
I'll get death threats, I'm sure.
And I need to call you up on something. Mm-hmm. In your introduction, you were, as you ever are, very self-deprecating and apologising before the film even started by saying something along the lines of, the characters don't do much walking or movement, and it's a lot of talking, but and it was. Well, that's why we love them. That's why we love the films.
I got in trouble for saying that by my crew. I know. I think it's because I'm paranoid. Because a film critic, a very famous film critic in Australia, said years ago, "Well, I like Mary Max, but there was way too much narration." And I went, "Oh my God, maybe he's right." So, and I have to do narration because the budgets are so low that we need to rely on the voiceover. And I've always just felt, if only with the characters we had more time and money to get them to talk more. But then, there's something beautiful about voiceover. I think it creates more intimacy, and we're very lucky having Sarah Snook because she's a very down-to-earth person. She's very self-deprecating. You don't even know it's her. She's just this voice in the ether, and so it's really, I shouldn't have said that last time.
I'm sorry to call you up on it, but it needed to be said because for me it was like Jim Henson saying, "I'm really sorry, Kermit's actually made out of fabric." Yes, we know, and that's why we love him. And I just wanted to say as well, but that economy, with that economy comes the ability to tell a really nice story and to be free from having to do something too spectacular for the sake of spectacular. The spectacular is within the script and within the performance of the voice artists and within the puppets as well. Yes. There's so much detail, and for a film about hoarding, that opening shot going through the junkyard and going through everything was just such a marvelous.
Yeah, well,
introduction.
it's funny because I mean, we had to make all those thousands of little objects, obviously. And halfway through the shoot, I thought, oh, gee, I wish I'd made a film about a minimalist because, this is ridiculous, sort of thousands of little things, But I think, too, I often wonder, gee, if I ever got the budget I really would like to have, I wonder if the film wouldn't work. I wonder if by having such constrained budget constraints that you are forced to think laterally and you have to be far more inventive, We couldn't even afford to do take twos or threes. We'd only do those if there was the table got bumped or something broke. So we knew we had to get it right first time, and the shoot was only 32 weeks. I was talking to one of the animators last night from Leica, and the productions just go for years and years, and I'd love to have all that time, but then maybe my films wouldn't work. I'd love more money, but
Well, I think it would be great if you do get more money, but stick to a 32-week and stick to the same budget for the film.
Right.
Just pay everyone more.
Yeah.
Just-
Well, that's exactly it. It's it can be done in 32 weeks. We proved that. But yeah, my editor, Bill, do you think you could edit the film, maybe this much? Anyway.
Years ago, you told me, and it's quite evident, you did 3 micro shorts based on relationships. You've done 2 so far with a first name, surname baked product.
Yes.
And then you were going to do hopefully 3 features.
Yeah.
Do you feel locked into that structure now? Would you ever return to a micro short or?
Well, you know what? I only sort of started talking about that, I think, after Harvey Krumpet or maybe Mary Max. I thought, this trilogy of trilogies. It's a lot of pressure now to get those done, but I'm up to number 7, so I think, I definitely think I can make another feature. And I always think back to Ray Harryhausen, how one of the last films he made was The Hare and the Tortoise, which was, he started it or something years before, but he never finished it, and then in his 80s or something, he finally finished it, and I thought, maybe that's what I'll do. I'll make all the others while I'm, being paid. But then that very last film I'll do with my own money and in my retirement, and that can probably be my worst film and my swan song. But then as well, I think, because I keep saying, I always do this joke, I'll do the trilogy of trilogies and then I'll die. But then I think, hang on, if I do another feature, that only gets me to 60. That's a very young time to die. So.
Yeah, slow down.
Yeah. So I'm gonna, yeah.
Oh, well, Adam Elliot, thank you very much for talking to Squiggly today. Congratulations on Memoir of a Snail. I'm really looking forward to its wide release and it being seen hopefully everywhere.
Oh, thank you, Steve. And also thank you, Squiggly, for supporting me over the years. Yeah. It's very lonely in Australia, and we need all the help we can get.
We're more than happy to help. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Memoir of a Snail is in UK cinemas from the 14th of February 2025, so please go out and support this film. Thanks for listening, or indeed watching if you've caught this on YouTube. All of our previous one-to-ones and other animation podcast series are available on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also follow us on socials, and for all the latest animation news, reviews, interviews, and anything else from the world of animation, head over to squiggly.com.